Hello my friends, in today's episode we will be disassembling and reassembling a Voigtlander Bessy K film camera. Let's get to it. The easiest place to start out with is the bottom cover. That pops right off by pulling on these little handles here. That comes right off. So I use this as a screw holder. So let's put that there. We'll leave this on for now. Here we got the battery compartment for the flash. Of course the flash doors are right over here. And when they open up, they change the shutter speed as well. So after that, on this film camera, this plate ring falls off, so we'll take it off. But on yours, if it's glued on, it's not going to fall off. And there's no reason, I don't know about any reason why you should take it off. There's no screws under there, so just leave that plate on. But ours fell off, so we'll keep it off for now. Next, we should take off the rear doors. The rear doors might be a pain to take off because you need to take out the pins from those hinges. You need to take them out in order to release the door. And one of those pins has a little head, making it easier to just push it out. So it's a little pin like this. But the other, either it's a destroyed pin or it never had a head. It's a little harder, but you should be able to take it out. And with the pins out, the door just slides right off. So we'll put the door to the side. So next on this camera, we will take care of taking off the top plate here. It's as well, nothing hard to take off. You got two screws, one on this side. Yes, this one might not come out too easily. If you got a magnetic tip, it's easier. And the other side, of course, you see everything from this camera is getting glued off. We will have to glue that back on another time. There we go. And the top plate should come off straight off. The easiest way to do it is grab this, pull it out and straight up, and keep a finger here so it doesn't fall back down, and just wiggle the other side up, straight up, just like this. As you see, this hook falls out now. It's something that goes into here, just like that, but for now it can stay like this. And we will put the two screws from the top plate into the top plate, so we know they go with the top plate here. And now we are starting to see a little bit of the assembly. We got, of course there is no light meter, this is fake. We got the viewfinder and the frame lines. The light goes in here. The frame lines are cut out on this plastic over here. And the frame lines that are cut out, the light from them bounces off of this mirror, goes through this window, on to this window, so you can see them on the display. I don't know if you will see them. So to take off this front assembly, it comes off with the lens here. So you will have to be careful with it, but there is nothing that, there shouldn't be anything that goes flying out that's hard to replace. You got a screw here, of course mine is missing, and you got another screw on the top corner over here. So you unscrew this, and after you get these two screws out, you still have this screw over here and this screw over here to take out. So let's take them out. And the front plate still won't come off because, as I said, it comes off with the lens. So you also got to unscrew the 4 screws that are inside here. They are black, just like the rest of the area, but they're in there. You will see them. So you just unscrew them because they hold on directly to the lens. And now, when you got those 4 screws out and those side ones, you can see that the lens is moving about. But you can't take off the lens directly without taking the whole frame off, because there's levers that go from the lens to the mechanism here. You will see a bar going up to this bolt over here. It's a lever going to the lens. We'll have a closer look when we take it off, but it's holding on here. So what you do is you just grab onto it and push it off of its little bolt, just like that, and it will let go. And the lens also holds on to the battery compartment underneath, so you should as well make sure it lets go of that area. There we go. And of course more than we need fell apart, but no worries. This is the viewfinder window from up here. Let's put that aside for now. And of course, this is the door release that goes in here. We'll put that on the door. And here's the lens assembly. This is what we were taking off of this post over here. How it works is it just presses the lens down and releases the shutter. And here's a little timing knob. And you can set this knob for bulb. Well, it's not bulb, it just the shutter stays open just like that. And to close it again, you just slide this to any other position. Because this little bolt is grabbed by this assembly down here. When you close the lamp, it's a faster shutter speed. When you open the lamp, it moves that bolt into a slower shutter speed to let in more light. As you see, this moves back and forth. So we got a big capacitor here for the flash. So if you have batteries in, good light bulbs in, and you are sure that all the connections are made within the flash, you should check if this capacitor is still in good working condition if your flash still don't work. So now we could take this window off, but we don't need to. This is just the frame lines going to the mirror through this glass onto this window, so we can see the frame lines visible with our eye. So that's how the assembly looks like here. The mirror is glued in place, at least in my camera it is glued in place, so you can't remove it. I assume it's for calibrating reasons, same as this window is glued in place. Let's show it with this. This window is glued in place, but this window is removable, so you can remove it to clean your viewfinder. There is no view window here. You see there is just a hole, so you only got this viewfinder to clean, and the viewfinder inside here, this little viewfinder that you could as well clean. It as well just slides out. Very simply, it should be no force at all, or just a little tiny lever movement from underneath to get it out. This window as well. It just simply goes into its spot, just like this. So now let's take apart the shutter mechanism here, or first we will start by unscrewing this screw here, which will release the wind mechanism underneath. Also, while we're here, we can see how the mechanism works. So you see, it can't take a shot now because this lever isn't pulled. So when you pull this lever, it releases this pin over here when it falls down. When this pin falls down, there's a lock here that gets out of the way that you can press the shutter again. But when you let go of the shutter, this lock over here jumps into place, preventing you from pressing the shutter again. Because as you see, if I move it by hand out of the way, I can press in the shutter again. And now we can't move it. So this lock spring mechanism here moves this lock out of the way. After releasing, it bounces back in. And this spring on the post over here, in case you would lose it or something like that, it holds on over here to this arm. So let's now get this screw out and take off the whole mechanism. So you just hold on to the wind wheel underneath that spins when you turn this. You just hold on to it and unscrew this big screw over here. You just screw it completely out, just like this. And now careful, because this wheel has a spring, so don't lose the spring. Just like that. It has a spring inside. And inside the top here, on the opposite side of the spring, it still has this nut for the screw. So don't lose these parts. With that out of the way, because that will be holding on the entire mechanism into the body, now we can unscrew this screw over here. And with that screw off, just a little warning, this part that moves over here, this part that moves, this part will fall out when you're taking it apart, but no worries, there's no difficulty in putting this back in later. Just a little heads up so you're not afraid of that you lost something. With that screw out, you still have to unscrew this little screw over here. Careful with your screws so you don't lose them, and try to keep track which ones goes where. With this screw removed, this screw removed, and this screw removed, now you should be able to wiggle this out of its room. It is also a little bit locked into place, so it might need some love to come out. What you could do is put a screwdriver on under here and get it off of this post over here. There we go, just like that. Just like that. And as we talked about this part coming off, I'll just set it aside. and we got this mechanism off. There isn't much complicated mechanisms here. Basically all of them are bolted onto this body, so you can't change much, but you could look how everything works. Here you got the door lock mechanism. When the door presses on, the mechanism locks the door. You just raise it up in order to unlock it. From the inside, just like that. And the spring controlling the mechanism is this spring on the side here. And of course, as well, the mechanism goes up over to here, this bolt. This one over here. When it shuts, it lowers this pin. As you see, it's now lowered to lower the movement to wind the film. But when you open the door, you see this pin goes up to raise the mechanism, to raise it up so you can take out the cartridge. And while looking around at this mechanism, you can also see how this shutter lock works here. Just you need to press onto it a little bit harder because it needs to have some applied pressure either, or this bolt here disconnects from it. So this, what we've seen before, what gets held back or unlocked, when it's in the unlocked position, it pulls this lever back so you can release this, the shutter. But let's put some pressure on here. When this lever is back, you see here when it grabs onto this handle here, the handle is also back, and it prevents the shutter from working. And it all takes place up here. This is where the shutter lock prevents this from moving. When this falls into place, because the pin is moved, so it falls down, pulling the lock away, at that time, this area up here is free for movement. So that's, I would assume, all we have to see here. And of course, this little wheel here that spins around, that's the wheel that stays up here to keep this moving one way, not the other. And it also has a little spring here. We will show where that spring goes during assembly. So let's put this part back down. There is no need to unscrew this over here because that's just a little cover for over here. There's nothing underneath it. And of course this pin, its only job is to move back and forth just like that. Just as you see, one arm of the spring over here, the other on this post over here on the side. Protect your springs so they don't go flying away to Krypton. you just see, because this can come off of its post, so you can replace this part at any time. It is a pain to get this out of here exactly, but if you have to, then it's possible. And when you got one spring on the post, the other one goes on underneath here. When you got the spring on the post, the other hand goes under here. So it can be moved like that. So the final little mechanism we got here underneath this cover. Underneath this cover, the only thing you will find is the mechanism from the flash. Just it might not be working properly because it has no pressure when you take off that plate. But you find the mechanism for the flash. And you can, of course, rotate the flash out when it disconnects. But I haven't found a way for complete disassembly of this, so if you know anything about this, leave it in the comments. Because I took all these apart, of course, you could take them out of the way. And there's just the bolt in there that you can't pull it out from this side. You don't see it from the back. And it's very hard to take out these plastic linings. So, but there should never be a reason for you to take that out. So how you assemble this the bottom plate here is with these claws. It goes in something like this. That in the open position, the pin is inside the claws here, and the claws are resting against this post. Because in the locked position, the pin is within the claws over here at the tip. And when you open it back up, it rests against this post like this. And this handle just goes resting with its little pin into here, and this big hole onto this center post. Just like that. And now when you hold this so everything stays in place, you see that this moves. It doesn't have to move a lot, it just moves a bit. A little tiny bit. Back and forth. So we will put this cover back on, because I don't want those parts flying around here. You can't take them completely out. Well, at least this lever is very hard to take completely out, so I won't be doing that. Just like that. And of course this wheel, when everything is disconnected, just comes straight off. And back on, just like that. So we got the whole camera disassembled. Now let's get to the shutter. To release the shutter from this spring here, it's easiest to just release the spring from this side, just like that. And we will get as deep as we could into this shutter. As you can play around how the shutter works here. A slower shutter speed. Or completely open, just like that. Close it back up. So we can take this screw out And both of these arms will come off, just like that. Of course, things love flying off. And we got the shutter itself. From this side, you can get to the shutter leaves, but I don't know how to get to the timing mechanism and the mechanism overall. I know it goes, you enter from this side, but I don't know how to take this top off or some other way. If you know in the comments, let me know down below. I will make a video about this pronto shutter separately, because many cameras had those pronto shutters. So on different disassemblies, we don't have to talk about those shutters in circles. Same thing, just there would be links to the video about the shutter itself, because I got a few of these shutters, so I will be making videos about the shutters themselves as well. But on this one, if you take out this screw, and the screw behind this right over here, you will take off this top plate. Now this screw is very tiny, very short, so you can't mistake it. It goes under this. And now this plate comes off just like this. It's a heavy little plate there. And now we see the shutters, and we see how they work. They open up like this, and then they close back up. So you got two leaf shutters opening to two sides. Of course, you can take them off if you would have them misplaced or one fell off from its pins or something like that. So now we got closer to the lens. The lens is the only part of the lens is this part over here, and I suppose it's glass. There's no lens over here. It's just a single lens over here on the front. And I do not know how to get to it. I tried everything. But if you know how to get inside the mechanism, let me know, because this is as far as I could ever get. Usually there's nothing here to break anyway, but sometimes the timing mechanism inside there can get a bit dirty from old age, or a flood or something like that. When reassembling the leaf, when reassembling the shutters, you remember that this bigger hole goes into this center post, the smaller hole goes into this side post, with the arm flexing out like that. Just like that. And now the other part. Same way. The bigger hole goes into the center post. The smaller hole goes into this little tiny post. Just like that. And you can test it out if everything works. Just like that. Complete bulb mode. Well, it's not a bulb mode, I would call it more service mode, because it isn't accessible from the outside. Only after taking it apart from the lens directly. So that's how this works. So now reassembling this, we put the plate back on here. Just like that. You can't mess it up. There's no other way it could go on. And screwing the screws back on. Don't put the screws too tight. You don't want to destroy them. Now this itsy bitsy tiny screw, it can give you a little headache to try to get it into place. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes it's a pain to have a magnetic screwdriver. Of course, it's not magnetic, It's only magnetic when you don't need it to be. There we go. And now we take these parts back onto it. This part goes this way, with the tip sticking up. And this, it's a little lock for the body. Goes in like this. And you don't have to worry much about calibrating because it goes on only one way. Those two little bolts from this side go into these two holes. And this is for the screw. So you just aim it into them holes, put the screw in, but you don't tighten the screw yet, you just catch onto it. But to have enough movement on here, just don't let it fall apart, because this doesn't have a screw, but needs to, this little pin on the side here needs to get into this hole. Just like that. So now when you got that pin in the hole, you hold on like this, and now you can tighten this screw. It just works like this. So now let's put it back into place over here. The same way we took it out. Get this spring back on in the hole, just like that. And the lens goes on, just like that. So this lock over here is stopped on this pin. There's a pin over there. And here you got a flash sync connection going to here, so make sure that's connecting as well. And it's best to have this bolt on this side opposite from these over here, because it will catch on to its little hole much easier that way. So now we slowly put down this lens assembly here, and let's put this back on here. So putting it on, there shouldn't be any problems whatsoever putting it on. You're just careful about this post over here with this lever. You put this side in here first, just like that, and the rest should be coming in much easier. There we go. It should just fall into place just like that. The lock is of course on now. When we release it, now it's not. Now it's on. And this spring from the wheel thingamajig to keep it rotating only one way, not the other. That spring holds on to this post over here where that one screw is. Right in there. So now, first things first, double check that this is in place, falling in, working properly, nicely. And we still need to insert this lever that went back and forth over here. That's this little thing. It goes in like this. With that rear pin facing up, it needs to get into this hole over here. You'll have to raise the assembly a little bit to make room in there to slide it in through. Just let it fall in there like that. And steer it onto its little post while assembling. There we go. So that pin falls into its place. So now you see, everything is working. And double check everything. If everything is pressed tight where it should be, all the springs on their place, this center post, this post over here, it's on the post. And now we could put on this screw and this screw, just like that, and make sure the door lever is raised up. And now we can mount the mechanism here for the little advance wheel just into the bottom here. We have to insert its little nut, just like that, and holding on to it so it doesn't disappear. Of course, keep track of your spring so it doesn't disappear as well. It goes into that hole in there, just like that. And now through the top, this screw goes in here and screw it on. Just hand tighten, not too hard. And now we can see how it works. When you close the doors, the film advance drops down so you could advance the film. When you open the doors, it goes up so you can take out the cartridge. So now with this into place, we do the hard part of assembling the lens. There's no easy way to assemble the lens, but it's not an impossible way. You just keep your flash closed. So this is to this position. And you will have to put this hole onto this bolt over here. Right over here. That bolt that moves over here. This one. While you are putting on the cover. And it's not naturally in that location, and this lens will be running away all over the place. So you hold the cover not by the plastic, but by the lens itself. So when you got these two parts like that, and of course, don't forget about the viewfinder window going in like that. And now with this bottom pin goes into this battery compartment, and as we talked, this goes on to that pin. And of course, again, we need to put the door opener thingamajig here. And now when you're assembling this, when it gets close, when you got something like this, that's when you have to get some pliers and force this shutter release lever onto that pin. That can be quite hard, but it's not impossible. I had it on my first try, but it fell off. Just like that. And of course the lens will move a bit, but don't move it too much. We could try out now the shutter. If all the shutter works, then all is good. We could try as well the light. Move it a few times to see if it caught on. If everything looks good, we start from screwing these 4 screws back in to hold the shutter in place. And of course, at every step when you're done screwing in, check if everything works properly. If the shutter speed changes when you release the flash, as you see, this is much faster. And this is much slower. And of course, when you're opening the flash, you can also hear the shutter moving inside. The shutter timing lever. So everything works currently now. So now let's put these 2 screws in here. And of course, don't forget about this one on the side over here. Now let's assemble the doors. So the doors go on just like that. And you put those pins back in to those holes on the sides. Same way you took them out. Just leave some sticking out so you can take them out later on. And now test the doors if everything works. Just like that. And when everything works, you got now the free bottom plate that you could just pop on to the bottom. Just like that. And if you got this side screw, remember to put it on. And now to mount the top plate, we have to put this back into place. So it goes on out like that. Can't put it in wrong, basically, because this little hook grabs onto the plastic underneath. So holding this from this side, best, you put it just like that. And of course, again, you can't put it on wrong. There we go, some love and everything goes into place. And of course the screw. Sometimes I might have to move it around like that so the screw catches on to this, because it has to screw into this on the other side. So if you're screwing it in like this, that could be too far down for the screw to catch it. And the opposite screw. And just like that, we have no extra screws, so that's good. And of course, this ring, to know how to glue it on, you just focus to this side as much as it can go. And that is for people here. And it will go something like this, to this people sign here, the red dot. So the prompter is underneath. Prompter 200 V, I guess that is. I'll have to glue that on. And there we go. That's how you disassemble and reassemble a Voigtlander Bessy K126 film camera. If you like this video, please hit the like button to help with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe if you like film photography related content, camera repairs, camera reviews, darkroom stuff, and everything you can imagine related to film photography. So thank you for watching, my friends. Take care and see you in the next video.